Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Butternomics. I'm your host, Brandon Butler, founder and CEO of Butler ATL. And today, man, we got somebody special in the building, man. You know what I'm saying? Not just doing the work, but doing it in a very intentional way. And we're going to talk about something that, I like a lot of people probably don't think about up front, but, it's something that everybody has to deal with. And this brother right here is really helping people go through it the right way. Mr. Henry Mason,
I
how you
appreciate
doing, sir?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you guys having me. I really do.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you pulling up. Now, you are the founder and CEO of Precious Hospice, right?
That's correct, yeah.
For those that don't know, man, first of all, what is Precious Hospice?
So what is hospice or what is precious
Well,
hospice?
what is hospice? Then
What-
tell us why it's precious when it comes to you
I
all.
got you. Fair enough. So hospice is a program. It was originally started in like 1990, late 1980s, and it started as a place. And it was a place that you went to and you just died in, right? So if you had like a day or two left, they sent you to a place to pass away, and that was what hospice was. And it was paid for by your insurance. And the reason why it was created was because they didn't want people dying in the hospital. Like you're not supposed to die in the hospital. Most people don't know that. So you're not supposed to. And hospitals get deemed for that. So this guy in Florida who created this company, I believe he was a senator at the time, he came up and he created this hospice concept. And so it was a place. And then as time went along, the hospital said, well, wait a minute. I can send them there when they got 2 days left. What about a little bit more time? Can they have this at home? Can we stop them from coming back and forth to the hospital? Because hospitals don't get paid. If you come back every 30 days, they don't get paid for that those next visits. So they expanded the program. Now they expanded it out to 6 months. So what you have now is a no out-of-pocket service called hospice, that where you can get your equipment, your supplies, your nursing visits, your CNAs, your medication, all sent to your home for no out-of-pocket costs. And that's kind of where we come in as Precious Hospice, particularly in Atlanta, is okay, who's doing this for minorities, right? And then once you understand the hospice model, what's really going on here? Because why do all of us think we only got a day or two? And then I got people like President Carter getting 2 years. And that's when you start Precious Hospice. And then you're like, you know what? I think it's time to tell everybody the truth. And then that's how we got to the social media thing about everything, how we started talking about it.
Well, that's interesting, man. I mean, yeah, like I've had family members in hospice care.
Mhm.
I actually have an uncle right now that he's at home hospice, and
Sure.
when you hear the word, I'm not gonna lie, you kind of think the worst.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You kind of
Right.
assume like, okay,
Right.
but like it's even my uncle. Like looking at him now, he's been at home hospice care for about the last 2.5 months.
Yep.
And he has nurses come in, and people are checking him out and making sure
Mhm.
he's good. And on the flip side, I remember also my grandfather. For my grandfather passed away, I remember going with my mom. That was her dad, and like going to different hospice facilities and kind of like checking them out. And
Yeah.
I didn't know everything that was going on, but like I always had this impression that it was where you were kind of going when you had a couple days left. But to your point, there's actually like a whole lead up that can actually happen to that. And I don't think a lot of people fully understand that.
Well, that's on purpose, right? And so I'll just give it to you straight for you guys. And so we have a 180-day average. So at day 181 that someone's on, so basically a little over 6 months, we got to start paying that money back. And so what Medicare is saying is you guys are bringing people on too early before they're actually terminal.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go back and forth. We say, we can't play God here, right? We got to figure this out. And so then they come back and say, we're going to give you guys a 180-day average. So you got to average your person that's here for 1 day with a person who's been here for 360 days. So if you're the hospice company that's profit first, right? You want as many people as you can who are 360 days who aren't going to cost you a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
That's not you and me.
Right.
We need help, right? We need the beds. We need the supplies. We need the medications paid for. We need the extra nursing visits. So they tell us, well, you can only go on it when you're dying tomorrow. And what they do is they use us to average
out the number.
The other people.
Oh.
And that's so when you're coming up, you say, well, what company do I look for? Well, I need to find a company that looks like me. Why? Because he's transparent and honest. And this is why you think this. It's not your fault. It's a systemic problem that we have here.
Okay, so that's what he's saying, right? Like if you don't have the information, they're basically saying you actually have time, but the average for the facility has to be 180 days.
Exactly.
And so the reality is the average, again, you have people on both sides of that. And when you look at it, but they're giving us the information,
the day before
we pass out, right? And we come in there and balance it out so other folks can stay in there longer.
Yep. And then now you're saying, well, I got my uncles in there for 2.5 months. And I'm saying I've seen people in there for President Carter, for instance, almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So 4 people had to come on and pass away in a day.
Yeah.
For him to get those 2 years.
Man, this is wild, man. This is and so you said a second ago too that a lot of people don't understand that hospitals get dinged. Like, so what's the purpose? Like, what is the point of hospitals in all this? Because you're saying they don't actually want people to. I mean, obviously we don't want people to pass away, but that shows up on like some reporter for them that say like people are not getting the care they need, or like how are hospitals getting like penalized for people passing away in a hospital?
Sure. So it's called a mortality rate. So there's a percentage that you have to be under, and you can't have people to pass away in the hospital. So what they've done is they've created these contracts with hospice companies that the hospital will come in and give them comfort beds or hospice beds
Mm-hmm.
in the hospital. So one of my posts with a healthcare hearing, we talk about stop going to those beds, right? Those beds are being used for what we just talked about. You're being put in a bed, and then you're given, say, we're going to put you in this bed because you can't make it home and on an ambulance ride. And if you don't make it home, then you hit that hospital's mortality rate. They can't get dinged but so many times. That doesn't look good. So we say, man, you can go home. You can go home. Trust me, you can go home. They say, well, I didn't know that. I said, well, you didn't go home, but how long did it take for your parents to actually pass? 4 days. You think you couldn't make a 15-minute ride in 4 days?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. And so now they're like, well, Henry, you're talking too much. I ain't talking enough. No, realistically,
Yeah.
we're not. And I shouldn't be the only one talking because I'm not the only one who knows it. It just find me another hospice owner who's willing to say it. The other thing is I'm 37 years old. I'm not even supposed to be in this industry,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I come here because my mom, she worked for another hospice company. She got cancer for the second time. They didn't even have the decency to come check on her for 9 months while she's going through chemotherapy and radiation.
Yeah.
So I know right off the bat, y'all don't care about us. We're working for y'all, but y'all don't really care. Then if you don't care about your employees, you definitely don't care about the people you're taking care of. And that's one of the things my mom said, well, I wanted you to do this and make a company that actually is people over profit. I said, we'll try it. And it just worked.
Yeah, and again, you're in business with your mom. You know what I'm saying? She helped start this company with you. Like, how did that actually come about?
Yeah, so she's sitting through, this is 2014, she's sitting through her chemotherapy treatments, and we're going back and forth. She said, well, they never came and checked on me. I said, well, you don't ever have to go back there. We'll figure something else for you to do. She's like, well, I could do this hospice thing. I said, I don't want to do this. And that was my initial response. I didn't
Yeah.
want to do this. And so she had her dad, which my granddad, called me and said, yeah, son, you're going to do this. And so the way my family works is you do what he tells you to do. So,
Right, but like,
just being honest,
a lot of
right?
black families. You know what I'm saying?
So I was like, yes, sir, I got you. So I hung up the phone and we got to work. She wrote out policies and procedures as she's going through chemotherapy, man.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back, read all the regulations. It took me about 6 months to learn everything. And then we went back into the community and said, we're going to start educating minorities on this hospice. And that's when I found out, why are all of you all saying, I'm not going there. You're not about to kill my mom. And I'm like, why are these other people calling me when they not even appropriate yet?
Yeah.
And that's when we found out, okay, this is the problem. This is what you've been told. This is what you believe. And the reality is you were told this so that they can average other people out with your day. So you're giving your days away. My analogy was if everyone has 6 months worth of food, but one person passes away today, that other 6 months worth of food that they had, we don't throw that away.
Yeah.
It just goes to somebody else.
Yeah, and again, man, like again, I think to your point, so much of this comes down to education.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one thing I kind of see on a lot of folks who come on the podcast and guests. They talk about just there's this education gap in which you don't know and kind of how people. And a lot of times it looks like us; it gets penalized for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you started going through this process, because again, you said like you didn't necessarily come out of school, like your background's in tech.
Tech and finance.
Tell me about that 6 months when you were actually, learning the regulations. Like, what did you have to go through? Was it difficult figuring out how to get the licensing? Like, how did you kind of go from? Because people want to know like how you started, right? Like, how do you kind of go from 0 to 1 and even starting that kind of company?
Yeah, so I definitely didn't have enough capital, right? That's the first thing. When people even ask me now, like, well, how do I start one? I'm like, it's more expensive than you think.
Yeah.
So I think I had about 200, 220 to start it. That's money I had saved from doing government contracts. So normally I was actually doing government like staffing and recruiting, so headhunting for companies with the DoD space. And so I built up a little nest egg. I was about 24 years old. So I was like, I could definitely have enough to do it. And I didn't have enough. You really need about 250 to 500,000 to do it. And so we went in it, we started it, we hired all the people that we needed to hire. And then we found out is that you have to run this company for like, at that time was pretty much a year before you got paid.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're talking about what I thought was enough money. I burned through that in 4 months.
Yeah.
So I needed the back end
Right.
to make this work. And so instead of doing that, what I did was I took on the jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that wasn't clinical, I did it. You're an administrator, you're a marketer, you're a volunteer coordinator. I did all of those jobs and saved myself about 300 or 400 grand.
Yeah.
And that's how I learned how this stuff works so much, like especially in the hospitals, because most healthcare companies coming out the gate have 2-3 million of cushion. So they're just hiring people to do the job.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a guy that's got to go do the marketing and you're trying to figure out why I'm not getting patients, but this guy's getting patients, and you start slowly backing that down, you say, okay, you got to follow the money train, and then it makes sense to you.
So, I mean, this makes me think, man. Now I'm
Mhm.
starting to wonder about hospitals in general and their business model. Like, what's wrong about the hospital business model and just healthcare business model in general in the United States?
Um, I don't really understand what you mean when you say what's wrong with it.
Like, again, it just sounds like. I mean, I understand they got to make business, they got to make money. I mean, they're
Mhm.
obviously business, they got to pay staff and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it seems like, to your point, they're kind of prioritizing making that money over the best interest of people. And so I know, like, you have some hospitals that, are like, they call themselves nonprofit, or you think about
Mhm.
like a hospital like a Grady, right, where a lot of the people that come in there are usually lower income,
Mhm.
versus, like, I don't know, an Emory or a Northside has a little bit of opposite, right? Like, how do we get more equity in the healthcare space, especially for people of color?
So most hospitals are nonprofits.
Okay.
So your major hospital chains, particularly in Georgia, are going to be nonprofits. When it comes to hospitals specifically like Grady, they get a lot of grant funding too,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a lot of those patients that come in with Medicaid, or they don't actually what people don't understand about a lot of these Medicaid programs and Medicare Advantage programs, they actually don't cover everything that you need.
Yeah.
So the hospital is stuck with a bill, and that's why patients are getting these huge hospital bills. But the reality of it is, they were getting huge grants from the government to kind of help them keep going, because without a hospital, you really can't have a community.
Right.
When it comes to like, what are they doing to make money? That's such a huge, broad question, because you have executives who make money in the insurance industry, right? And
Mm-hmm.
no one talks about them, right? But you got insurance executives who make 20-30 million dollars a year, but yet everyone talks about the doctor making 400K. It's like, why are we really, the doctor saving your life?
Right.
He should be making $20 million,
Right.
right? So that's kind of where it's like, for the most part, people who are clinical want to do the right thing. I would say that.
Yeah. Like, what's the saying? I remember hearing it's like, Medicare silver hair, Medicaid underpaid, and they kind of talk about like how Medicare and Medicaid are used for different audiences. Is that accurate, or am I
It's
misunderstanding that?
totally accurate, because
Okay.
Medicaid is a needs-based program, right? So
Okay.
you can only get it if you have, which is another issue they got to figure out. But you can't really have that in Georgia specifically. You can't have any assets, life insurance. You got to have less than like $2,000 in your bank account. You can't make anything like more than like $1,300 a month or something like that. And it fluctuates based on family size, but it's really for people who need it. It's a state-based program. Medicare is federal-based,
Yeah.
but it's a more expensive, comprehensive program. So for someone who needs more care, if you have a little bit more money, you will get Medicare. And
Hmm.
but then it's confusing, because you got Medicare Part A, Part B,
Yeah.
Part D, and it's like, now they got to figure all this stuff out. And then it's like, that's where we try to bridge the gap for them.
Yeah. Now, again, when you think of the name, Precious Hospice, I mean, it
Yeah.
definitely sounds like, there's more of a caring element to it, and
Yep.
all that. I mean, like, but again, even right now in this conversation, like I said, I came into this thinking one thing about hospice care, and I'm
Sure.
already starting to be like, oh, okay, this
Yeah.
actually isn't just what you
That's a
think it is,
blessing.
right?
That's
Like,
good. Yeah.
and when again, I'm already like, okay, this how this could be applied to different situations and stuff like that. I mean, I've had friends. I kind of feel like we're all in this age right now. We're in like this kind of 35 to 50-year-old age. I was talking to my best friend about it. He lost two of his parents last year,
Mm-hmm.
literally within a month of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of think about a lot of my friends are going through situations we talk about all the time, to where nobody got us ready for this part where our parents start getting older and like our family members start getting older, right? Like, you think about it and you see it, but when all your friends kind of start dealing with it, it kind of hits home a little bit differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've literally had another one of my best friend's moms passed away, right? And again, these are people that you knew and you grew up with. And so just tell me, like, what is the day to day like of running a hospice? Like, what does that kind of deal with?
I can give you today.
Okay.
Let's give you today, right? So this morning I woke up. I woke up about 4:30. Got to the gym about 5. Got out about 5:36. Now on the internet, I give everybody my cell phone number. I don't know if I should have done that, right? But again, I never expected it to grow, right, like this. I just figured a couple people would hit me up for some help, and it grew. So about 6 o'clock every morning now, my phone's gonna start ringing, or
Hmm.
text, and I'm talking about, to the point now we get about 20 a day. If someone's like, "Hey, I'm at the hospital. Can you tell me what they're talking about?" And I'm like, "Sure, I got you." So, and that's kind of become my thing. So from there, of course, last night I went and got this puppy I was telling, which is over in the room
Yeah.
next door. So I got to walk this puppy that I got yesterday, because we picked this puppy up because we have our Precious Wish Foundation. It's our where we give out these precious wishes to people who are either on hospice or need hospice, something like that. So we've taken people to a Falcons game. This one in particular, I had to pick up the dog last night. It's a puppy, because we have a patient who lost her puppy 2 weeks ago.
Hmm.
So without that dog, I know that patient's going to pass away quickly.
Yeah.
So the first thing we did was, and I partnered with Interim Home Health, and we got a dog. And I was like, so now we're gonna present the dog today at 2:30. This isn't gonna air before 2:30, right?
No,
I'm
you good.
joking.
You
Nah,
good.
so
You
they
good. You
won't, they
good.
won't know. So yeah, just stuff like that. That's what precious means to us, right? Just going the extra mile,
Yeah.
not just putting every dollar into salespeople, but putting it into things where we can actually provide value to patients and their families.
Okay. Okay. And so again, you're looking for ways to just again show up. I mean, to kind of provide care in lots of different ways.
Yeah.
How is this? Because it's also a family-run business, right? Like you have family members involved in that now. Like, how did they start getting involved?
So originally, my mom was the one who had all the information,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I just have the finance background to figure out how the numbers work. But when my mother, she passed in 2022. But you spoke about someone you knew that passed a couple months away from each other, a month away from my dad died January 2022. My mom died April 2022, and my son, who's 3, was born 2 weeks before my mother passed.
Oh man.
So, and literally, I talk about this because the day of my mother's funeral was a Friday. I actually had to go to work. Right. I literally had, because when you're building a business,
Yeah.
and yeah, I have to help people, right? They can't wait for me tomorrow. Like they need me now. So
Yeah.
I had to literally, on my way to my mom's funeral, stop by the office, help 3 patients. I'll never forget, had to help 3 patients get out of the hospital, make sure everything was set up for them. And then I went to my mom's funeral and nobody ever knew about it. I just kept going. So in terms of having like family in the business, that was pretty much what we had, me and my mom, and we just ran with it, and that's just been like the baby. I just said I'm gonna take it as far as I can go. I have other plans, but to take it as far as I can go.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, how has this journey impacted you personally? Like, in building this again, inspired by your mom and getting your family and stuff involved. Like, how has this just changed your perspective and inspired you?
You ever spend time with a hospice patient?
I have. Yeah.
When you spend time with a hospice patient, it'll change like the very fabric of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Time is not the same anymore. How you feel, empathy is not the same anymore. What matters to you won't even matter anymore.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you think, man, I gotta work, I gotta go get this stuff, I gotta go take care of my family. And then at the end of their lives, they all say the same thing. It's like, I just wish I had more time. And I think for me, it's like you start to embrace that and take that on. Um, I don't know if it's good or bad, um, because I do consider myself to be like an empath. So I take on a lot of the emotions of the families that I talk to. And I don't know if it's good for me personally, but it's like purpose for me, right? So I feel like that's what I'm here to do. And so that's just what I continue to kind of keep doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it has to be tough, man. Like, there's definitely moments because, when people are coming into that,
Hmm.
whether again they're on the front end or the back end of it. I mean, you're all dealing with somebody who's kind of facing, the end of their life coming up, and just
Yeah.
it makes you feel like I have a friend of mine, not even a friend, I have a family member who owns a funeral home,
Hmm.
and like even in the he was in like kind of a small country town, but he literally has the biggest funeral home like in the county.
Yeah.
And so he's all like anytime somebody passes away, and a lot of people that he knows, like he's
Hmm.
actually also the county commissioner, right? So
Yeah.
he knows a lot of people that are coming through there, and so that's something he has to kind of work with all the time too, right? Like these aren't just random people. I mean, nobody is random, but even more often than not, anytime it's a family member or a friend of a family member, like he has a connection with them, so it's giving him a different approach to kind of those things.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. One of my mentors is Levitt from Levitt Funeral
Yeah.
Homes, and one of the things that we've noticed is that it is different dealing with someone that you watch pass.
Mm-hmm.
So when we bring them on hospice, we watch them pass.
Yeah.
When they get them at the funeral home, they've already passed. So it is a little different from that vantage point, but it's just one of those things where you're constantly talking about death,
Yeah.
and you kind of got to figure out your way around regular life, even though that's what you deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's got to be tough, but at the same time, man, I think what's really important is that you're bringing more equity to the space.
Hmm.
You're bringing more perspective and more consideration because a lot of times, I mean, we've heard the stats in the past where even when people of color go to the hospitals, they don't always recognize that we deal with pain the same way as other people. Like that kind of stuff is happening right now in Atlanta.
Adriana Smith, right? She just passed. Well, they just pulled the plug on her at Emory.
Hmm.
You heard the story.
What was the story?
The young
The
lady,
young lady, the nurse, right?
she was a nurse,
Yeah,
and she's telling you what she's experiencing, right? And you all have the audacity to tell if they're willing to tell this to a nurse that's because she's black, what do you think they're telling the other black people?
yeah,
right? And so until we get more representation in our spaces, and we're talking about hospice, hospice is pain management.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about going to a hospice that's going to, most of these hospices are going to tell you we're not in that much pain. And hospice is totally different because we have to actually pay for your pain medications. So when they tell you you're not in that much pain, it's because, well, I could give you pain meds, but I got to personally pay for them.
Yeah.
So who are they going to, that goes back to 2 days, 1 year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you start putting all of that together, you can start making sense of it. But that part of it is why I wanted to go and build out my own community. And we started Healthcare Henry Academy. And so we're going to teach people how to start their own healthcare businesses, because everything in healthcare is a business. Everything in healthcare is a business. One that's super simple that anybody can start for $3,000, maybe 5, is when you go to a senior living facility, they all have placement agencies that they use. So go to any facility, say, hey, I want to start, I have a company, and we place people into your beds. And say, okay, well, how much is it? Say, we'll charge you 80% of what you charge for the first month's rent. Some of these facilities are $10,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say you got your aunt, and your aunt wants to go there. Before you send your aunt there, call them and get a contract, get your $8,000 back.
Hmm.
This is the stuff I'm talking about. Like, that's how much stuff we have in healthcare, and that's one small thing that anybody can do. So imagine that, like, on a granular level, like, what's actually going on? Like, where's the money being made for us? Medications, right? The pharmacy courier, the person who takes the medications to the home because they got to go to the home. The supply company. We got a supply delivery person now, so he delivers it when we need something done right away. Your equipment you lease from a durable medical equipment company, so we pay that company too, right? Our EMR system, which is like super expensive, that's probably gonna be $4 or $5,000 a month, depending on who you are. It could be 20 a month, right? So it's just like, if you can get us to understand, like, hey, it's time for us to get into healthcare. We got the money, we've got the resources. I just tell people, build you a team.
Yeah.
Don't come in here like I came in here. Like me and my mom came in here, guns blazing, 2 people.
Right.
Don't do that. Like you're gonna lose your behind doing that. Like, get you some people together. You got a nurse at the hospital. You got a person who goes to the hospital anyway to sell something else. Y'all can start something.
Yeah.
Put your 50,000 together. You can start something. That might not be a hospice, but you can do something.
No, that's interesting, man. I mean, you're talking about the whole kind of, just value chain, supply chain of hospitals and
Mm-hmm.
healthcare in general. I mean, funny enough, I've actually, in a former life, I was in tech myself, and I actually helped a hospital implement a EMR system, so electronic medical records,
So you
right?
get it. So you get it.
So, like, and again, I didn't even think about it back in the day. I just thought I was, helping them out, doing some work, and they were, getting
Mm-hmm.
everything so they have tablets and all this stuff
Yep.
now. But,
Mm-hmm.
so tell me more about this healthcare, Henry. Like, is that what you're helping people do? Is really kind of understand, like, there's lots of places that you can kind of get involved in this,
Yeah.
especially from a minority, just an equity standpoint.
You want to know the truth?
What's up?
Do you want to know the truth, for real?
I want to know the truth.
The truth is, I was having a hard time crack hospitals, right?
Okay.
This black boy comes in there, hey, I own Precious Hospice. Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. I said, okay, cool. I come up with this idea. What if I stop talking about hospice? For whatever reason you don't want me in here, right? Whatever reason you don't want your case manager talking to me, you don't want me doing anything. I'm going to be Healthcare Henry. So now I just want to help seniors. I am the patient advocate for seniors. So are we going to tell the boy he can't come in here? Because that's what I look at you. You can't come in here and help seniors. That's not how that works, right?
Yeah.
So now, come on, we want you to help seniors. And that's where that came from. That's where the whole platform came from. I'm pushing hospice, trying to get people on it, and I'm just getting hit with this door for years.
Mhm.
7 years, 8 years. I'm like, this is crazy. So we finally switched the model saying, hey, we got the hospice, but I know more than just hospice.
Right.
I know home health. I know placement. I can tell you how to start one. I can tell you about nursing homes. I can tell you about whatever you want to know. And that's how I was able to get in and be a resource. And then I can tell people you have options. Because when you go to a hospital, a lot of times they just give you one company.
Yeah.
Or they'll give you 3 companies all owned by one company. No, this is a real
That's the hustle,
thing.
yeah.
It's like, you got to be joking. And so now, as we built out the platform, the calls I'm getting, I said, they did what to you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the same company. Well, I'm going with you because you're transparent and you're honest with me. I said, that's what I would do. But you have to go in there and tell them this is where I want to go. Because if you tell them once or twice, sometimes they'll still try to steer you out to play. They did that to one of my family members. So I know. They didn't know it was my family member, of course, but she told them like 4 times. And this hospital still trying to send them somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are we doing here? So now you got to get out there and become the patient advocate. And that's what I've been doing.
Okay. No, man. I mean, it's funny. You kind of talk about getting the door slammed in your face, people telling you no. Like, I was talking to a buddy of mine recently, and we were actually both of us were giving some advice to somebody about who's getting ready to start a business, and my friend said something really funny. He was like, "Look, man, you're gonna go on this journey. And I'm sure you're gonna be successful."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "But the one thing you got to be careful that you don't do is you don't become the villain in somebody else's story."
Yep.
He was like, because the way that he started his business
Mm-hmm.
was that somebody told him no.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, that was all the fuel he needed to go start. Now he's running like a 7-figure company, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he was literally telling this other guy, you're going to run to the same thing. You're going to get running. You're going to start building stuff, and people will come at you. And like, you just want to be careful.
Yeah.
Because you tell the wrong person no, you're going to become the villain in their story.
Yeah.
And now they're going to want to build something just to kind of like show you that they could do it, right? And it sounds like, a little bit of that is that's what kind of happened to you a little bit, right?
No, that's exactly what happened to me because no, literally, when my mom was going through chemo and I called her old boss and said, "Can you help me? Like, explain to me how to start a hospice?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah." He laughed at me, like, "That's a joke. Like, you can't do this." And I'm like, "You gonna tell me or not? Like, if you don't want to tell me, that's fine." Because we weren't like, you need the prompts for Google to work with you, and we didn't really have the prompts to know how to do that.
Yeah.
So I went to him. He's like, "I just go look through the stuff." And he's like laughing, blah, blah, blah. It's like, all right, dude. So that became my fuel. And 2 years later, he went out of business. Seriously. Yeah. And we're bigger now than he was then. It's just like that. The better option would have been, let me take you under my wing, which is why we started the academy. Say, look, if I could bring you under my wing, I can show you. I can stop you from having the pitfalls that we had. And you can have a much easier route. Because I don't, like, even you have kids, right?
Yeah.
You got 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want your kids to be entrepreneurs?
Absolutely.
You do? Why?
Yeah. Well, biggest reason why is when I've built the stuff that I've built, I always bring, especially my daughter, I always bring her along with me and let her show it. But the biggest thing is, I don't want anybody to, tell them they can't have an opportunity. I don't want their opportunity to be totally dependent upon other people. Now, I will say, I don't have an issue with people working corporate jobs at all. I think, again, there are a lot of people that are very stressed out that are trying to run a company that will probably be, employee number 5 or 50 in a bigger organization. But I know for me personally, and a lot of times I do think it's because of the color of my skin in some areas.
Sure.
Even when I look around and, I'm gonna be honest, I've said to myself, I get tired of asking people that don't look like me for opportunities. That's just something I've said to myself over and over and over again. Like I'm just being honest, man. Like when I've been in tech, and when I go back and I think about every company that I've worked at, the person who ran it did not look like me.
Yeah.
They did not come from the same space as me. And like, it's just so interesting, especially in a city like Atlanta. I was having a conversation with Ryan Wilson from the Gathering Spot about this same thing, right? It's like when you look out, like we don't own anything. A lot of these people, we don't own a lot of businesses. A lot of Black-owned businesses don't employ, actual people, right? And so for me, even though I had built stuff and had a great career, I kind of got to this place to where I was just tired of my opportunities being based upon somebody that didn't look like me's perspective. And so I'm teaching my daughter, like, look, you can go get a job. You can go, I'm nothing wrong with that at all. I want you to go be successful, but understanding controlling your own destiny, it comes with its own issues as well.
Yeah.
But at least you're in the driver's seat a lot more.
So my take on it is a little different. So my son is 3, right? And what I have to endure on a daily basis, I wouldn't want him to have to deal with that. I would not want him to have to go there. And I get like, well, it makes you a better person, all that.
It's not that much better of a person.
It's not.
It makes you more jaded sometimes.
It does quite the opposite. Because now you understand how the real world works.
Yeah.
And it's not that you want to shelter him, but it's like, hey, we have to do a better job of, like, you are building Butternomics, right? Butter ATL.
Yeah.
Now that needs to get to a point where your kids, now they got opportunities. They come up, here you go walk into this.
Right.
They're not starting from, when I say entrepreneur, like, I don't really want him to start from the bottom.
Oh,
like,
no.
No. It's like, I'm doing this so you don't have to.
Right.
Right. It's like even my son's grandfather, C.D. Moody, he talks about this.
Oh, shout out C.D. Moody's been on here, man. That's the homie.
Oh, I should have told him I was coming.
Oh yeah, man. I went and had lunch with him a couple weeks ago, man.
Oh yeah, I didn't tell him. I didn't even, so now he knows. Yeah, I'm gonna call him.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's like when he built this business, and then it's like you can walk your kids in the front door.
Right.
How many people build construction companies where they can actually walk their kids through the front door?
Yeah.
Like that's what we need to be trying to get to.
Yeah.
Like that's where I look at people like that, and I'm like, okay, if we can all start doing that, then you can say, well, we don't need certain kinds of people.
Yeah.
But until we all understand and do that, we're all going to be in the same rat race.
No,
But he's a great example of that, though.
no, man, yeah, no, he's a great guy. He's actually been on the podcast before. He and we've hung out. I've been to his office. You know, he was
Okay,
one of the people I actually sat down and talked to him a couple weeks ago just about some things that I
he's
was.
cool. He's
Well,
reachable.
yeah, he's a very good guy. He always
Mhm.
tells me, he's like, man, just pick up the phone and call
Yeah, he's
me.
reachable.
You know, and he's down in Redan, not that far from the Stone Mountain, where my folks
Damn,
at.
you giving it all out,
Yeah, I
man.
know. That's my
Hold
homie,
on,
man.
hold on,
That's the
hold
homie,
on,
man. I
hold
ain't, I ain't telling
on.
everybody, you know what I'm saying?
Hold
He's got
on,
it.
hold
Look, he ain't
on.
hard to find, though. You know what I'm saying? But we ain't going to give them all out. But no, man, I mean, look, I think to your point, you know, again, I was talking to another buddy of mine, Terrence, that runs a company out here called Grady Baby Co., right? And
Okay.
like one of the things we were talking about was nepotism. And he was like,
Mhm.
look, man, there's nothing wrong with nepotism because to a certain extent, why wouldn't you want your kids to start on third base? Why wouldn't you want your kids to be able to walk into a door because of your name, because of what you've opened?
Mhm.
Look, I'll tell you right now, even when it comes to school, like I already told my daughter she's going to Spelman. You know what I mean? I got a video of her when she was 3 years old. I went and
Yeah.
took a video of her standing in front of the Spelman sign saying, I'm going to Spelman.
Oh wow.
Because guess what? That's going to be
Wow.
part of her application.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
even now, I've got friends that I've connected with over the years. I mean,
Mhm.
we're good friends. She does stuff. But I've told her, I'm like, look, it's all lined up.
Mhm.
You still got to do the work.
Yeah.
But why do you think dad works so hard and does these things and build these relationships, right? Like if my relationships can't help you get into a better space. So yeah, absolutely. I believe in, I don't want them to just go start from the bottom and go grind it out because I had to work hard. If anything, I want them to, again, start on second or third base and maybe get a little bit of a head start, right?
I'm with you 100%, man. I look at, because my mother's side of the family, they've all had businesses too, right? They still run their own businesses, and I've been able to learn so much from them. And they've done everything from banks to construction companies, and you got lawyers and entertainments. Uncle Elroy is my mom's brother, so
Okay.
like just really understanding like how this stuff works. They have made it pretty clear. Like when we sit down and we talk, this is what you gotta do. I can go to them with real questions and real things, but for people that don't have that, that's where you and I we do have to come in and help our community. That's one of the things that I will say about us. We're not as open as we should be.
Yeah.
Like you got some information, I got some information. Well, I can't give him this information because he's gonna be better than I am.
No,
That's a huge problem we have.
right.
Like we've got to, even with me trying to start the hospice, right? He's like, and that guy was a minority. Believe it or not, he wasn't he was a minority. And I'm like, you serious? He's like, and so now instead of working together, you're out of business, calling me trying to buy mine. It's like, that's not how that works anymore. But I think like what you're doing is like super impactful. I watched a couple of the episodes. I'm not a media TV person. I like shoot and then do something else.
Yeah.
No, seriously. But it's like I watched a couple of the episodes, like even one with Jordan. Because I was just at a wedding with Jordan. Adam, they got married, and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. Like I actually thoroughly enjoy somebody creating a space where people can educate others on what they can do. Because that's what we're missing. Like we don't know, right? We literally, where I'm from, Chicago, you don't know. I don't know you can start a podcast. And if I do, if you don't tell me that, hey, you can start it with finding somebody to find you a space and get in there and pay some money, you don't know. You just think, well, I got to give me a camera. Like you don't know. So these platforms are super important, man.
No, I appreciate it, man. I mean, one thing I've always tried to do is I try to be very tactical, and that's one of the reasons why I even started this platform. I think we've got enough motivation. I think we got enough people telling us to go start and work hard, and sometimes you need to know, like, what do I do first?
First thing.
Like, how do I go from 0 to 1 with this thing?
No,
I don't
seriously.
need any motivation to kind of, get going. I got the motivation. Now I need the direction, and that's where we kind of built this platform in to kind of bring people in, man. And so I appreciate it. One thing I'd love to ask you too is like, especially with your tech background and just, I always think too that for us, like you said, you're 37, so you look at things a little bit differently. How are you bringing kind of innovation into this space, right?
You would ask that.
Yeah, how does that part come in?
Yeah, you're good. So I can't say exactly what it is.
Okay.
But I will tell you that we have built an EMR system that is going to change the way we do EMR.
Okay.
We're going to change the way you do medical records. And I think for us, it's funny. So the guy, I don't know if you know Jeff Nelson from Blavity and Afro Tenant.
Yeah.
We went to high school together.
Okay.
So we talk often, right? And I was telling him like, man, he's super IT, like AI guy of the future, right? That's how he thinks. Everything's AI. So I went to him. I was like, bro, I got this idea. He was like, oh yeah, we got to do that. So it's just like being in not my industry, healthcare, and being young, because this is my decade now. So I've been 27. You see a lot of holes. Right. If there were people out there that said, hey, I want to start a healthcare tech fund or whatever, you would need somebody like me to tell you, no, These are the holes that you can fill with products that already exist.
Mm-hmm.
They just need rebranding.
Yeah.
Like literally, like without getting into detail, like you could literally take what we do on paper. There's stuff that exists to change that. Just rebrand the whole thing, and now you got this. And once one of us buys this,
Mm-hmm.
because healthcare is not like a podcast,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your people can come from all over the country. My healthcare people can only come from people I can service, which is within my 50-mile radius.
Oh, okay.
So if I got it and company is 2 blocks down the street, we're fighting for the same market share. You got to have it.
Yeah.
So healthcare tech is going to be like, for me, once I'm able to, talk about it. But no, it's going to be one of those things where I feel like we can actually change the dynamics of how things are done. And you're talking about the hospital systems and how they work. It's like they need to be doing more business with minorities.
Yeah.
The whole DEI thing, right? Like that would never existed for us. You see no healthcare companies like complaining about it.
Right.
We never had no opportunities. You know what I mean? Like they say we have a DEI program. No, you don't. Right? It's just never really existed for us. So it never really bought. But I think in the future, as we build out where we're going, we can tell them like, hey, we go to you all in Atlanta. We go to you for all of this care.
Mm-hmm.
You're billing Medicare, private insurance, millions of dollars a year for all this care. You mean to tell me you can't set a budget to the side for African American companies?
Mm-hmm.
But you're getting all, you're like, we can't get anything, but yet you expect me to go out and I feed 1,500 seniors. The mayor comes out, so somebody cares, right? Then you can't tell a company that you work with that they have to do any of that.
Yeah.
Like I just don't understand that. So that's where we gotta grow together and build our platforms together so that we can have a voice. Because if we got a voice, we can make some things change.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. What lessons would you give? What's like 2 or 3 just lessons that you kind of learned that you would give, Black entrepreneurs and founders in the healthcare space that want to get started?
Find a mentor ASAP. Find a mentor ASAP because the stuff that you need to know is not in the book.
Mm-hmm.
There's the regulation book, the policies books, and to say, when people say, just read the book. Like the pitfalls you're gonna have are not always in the book. For instance, when you're in hospice and you do your hospice billing, you gotta really know how to bill. The reason is for us, we didn't get paid for 2 years, 2.5 years. So when I say I needed more money, that's why I needed more money.
Mm-hmm.
I had to actually get in the car and drive to Columbia, South Carolina to have a conversation to figure out, why am I not getting paid? You promised me this money, I'm not getting paid. And they say, well, you built this in a way. I said, no, we didn't. And so we ended up having to go through all this stuff. But the reality of it was you have to hire the best people around you that you can't get to without a mentor.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to just work with you. So then that's what we do. So we have to set you up with the best people around you so that you can build adequately and get your stuff paid for. Another one I would just say is, I hate to say this. If you're a minority going into a healthcare business, you need to be ready for a lot of no's. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's not one of those things where I started my company with 2 guys who are not minorities, and what they had access to, I still don't have access to, right? If it wasn't for social media and me telling people, when you go to the hospital, call me, I'm going to help you. Before that got rolling, we weren't really getting much from the hospitals at all. For whatever reason, right? It could be because I'm a minority, could be because we don't like healthcare here. Like, we don't know, right? But until now, it's like now we're getting it. But I would just tell them, it's a grind. It's not something you get in, you can be a millionaire tomorrow. You could, figuratively, right? But it's a grind to it. And I think they really have to understand that it's a long haul to this. But if you stick with it, there's so much space for everybody. It's so much space, man. There's so much space for everybody.
No, I love that, man. I love that. So, looking ahead, man, what's the long-term vision for Precious Healthcare? Like, I know you're talking about potentially some tech innovation, some other things. Like, where do you see this thing going?
Tech innovation is the number one thing for me. So where we are with hospice, we've learned so much in 10 years. And so we've been able to compile all this information, all of this data, and put together projects and products that people can use. Say, hey, this is your issue, right? You can use this for $4 a month. And so we've put together different products for that. So, but all of that'll be coming available under healthcarehenry.com as we kind of like roll out our own like sample EMR system. That should be here in about 2 to 3 months. And then we have our wetrusthenry.com, which is like our version of our directory.
Mm-hmm.
So like we've got companies that might be referred to you by the hospital, but how do they treat people? How
Yeah.
do they treat our people? What's their customer service like? And so when you come to wetrusthenry.com, we're giving you the real. Well, this Google says this is a 4. Well, it might be a 4 on Google, but for us, it's a 2.5. And this is why it's a 2.5. And so we're giving people the real background of how to function and how to do that. But my advice to people, though, more than anything, you have to learn how the business of healthcare works to properly provide the best healthcare for you and your family.
Yeah.
You have to. You absolutely have to. Because when you're going, this is the one thing that everyone keeps a secret. And it's for a reason. I gave you one of the reasons with hospice, right?
Yeah.
But all of it has a reason. And I, without going too deep, they all have a reason. But if you're able to find someone, whether it's me or whoever, who can help educate you on the business of healthcare, you'll better know how to give your family members appropriate care. I spoke last week about a home health company who also owns a hospice. My suggestion, I'm not sure I would go to one because your margins are in hospice.
Yeah.
So if I'm a home health and in Georgia, they have certificate of need. So you can't open a home health here. So what's easier to do? Once you get a home health, it's easy to get a contract. And after about 30 or 60 days, they try to move you to hospice.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true rehab.
Yeah.
So I would look at stuff like, but if you don't know that the business of that, how that works, you just say, I was go anywhere. But now that you know, you can really reevaluate, well, how does this really work? Why am I going here? Who's sending me here? Who's pressuring me to go here? Why am I being diverted from this company to that company?
Yeah. No,
So
man.
that would be my advice.
No, man. Look, this is good information, man.
Mhm.
Before we get out of here, man, please, if people want to get in contact with you, they want to get in contact with Precious Hospice, they want to learn about healthcare, Henry,
Yeah.
like give them all the things. I let you know, I love that we trust Henry because I'm just saying, man, I do think to your point, like there's something important about having kind of almost like a directory of being like, no, these are vetted, trusted services, and I mean, you're already a trusted individual in that space, and now you're helping to like highlight the other things. So please, man, again, like give them all the things, man. How can they find you all, work with you all, support you? How can they learn? How can they all that stuff?
Absolutely. So Precious Hospice is the company, and we always say call us when you're in the hospital. You can call us whenever, and you can always transfer if you make a bad decision up front. You can always come to us later. But in terms of learning the business of healthcare, that's Healthcare Henry. So that's YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I don't know all that stuff, but all the stuff, right? Facebook, all that stuff. And then we're just giving them just like solid gems that they can run with every day. And then when it comes to understanding how to run your own business, they can go to Healthcare Henry Academy. And if you want, like you said, our directory is stuff for us. And when I say us, people say, you're just so black. I don't just mean black. I mean us as a people.
Yeah.
Because it's institution versus people.
Yeah.
And I think too many times people try to say, well, if you're pro people, you're pro black. No, I'm pro everybody.
Yeah.
Because if you got Medicaid and they pull your Medicaid and you're a white male, you're with us too now. Whether you want to realize it or not, you're with us too, and I'm for you, even if you don't like me.
Yeah.
So that's what I would tell them.
Okay. Hey, man. Well, look, man, thank you so much for coming out. This has
a
been
pleasure.
a really insightful episode. I learned a lot. I'm sure everybody else learned a lot, man. And again, thank you for the work you're doing in this space, brother. It's really important.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
For sure, man. With that said, we out, y'all. That's the pod.
All right.